The desperate measure Olivia Parker stared at her laptop screen. The university payment portal showing an outstanding balance that made her stomach knot. $3,000 due in 2 weeks, or she couldn't register for her final semester. Her scholarship covered tuition, but not the mandatory housing fees that had increased mid-year. Her part-time job at the campus library barely covered groceries, and her father's disability checks were stretched thin, caring for her younger sister back home. She closed the tab and opened the university's student forum, scrolling mindlessly. To distract herself from the impending financial disaster, a post in the Job's Gigs section caught her eye. $250 for one evening. Attend dinner as my date. Professional, respectful environment. No strings attached. Message for details. Olivia bit her lip. It wasn't the first time she'd seen such posts, usually. From wealthy business students looking for arm candy at corporate events, she'd always scrolled past them, but tonight, with desperation clouding her judgment, she clicked the message button. The response came within minutes. A man named Ethan needed someone to pose as his girlfriend for dinner with his mother. No romantic expectations, just convincing conversation and polite company. The instructions were specific. Wear something elegant but modest, arrive at Giovanni's at 7 p.m. Thursday, and pretend they'd been dating for 3 months. This is insane, she muttered, but typed her acceptance anyway. Thursday evening found Olivia standing outside the upscale Italian restaurant, wearing her only cocktail dress, a navy blue number she'd bought secondhand for presentations. Her auburn hair was swept into a simple updo, and she wore the pearl earrings her grandmother had given her for graduation. Taking a deep breath, she walked in and spotted him immediately. Ethan Reed sat at a corner table, his broad shoulders filling out a charcoal gray suit. He was older than she expected, maybe early 30s, with copper-brown hair and tired eyes that brightened when he saw her. "Olivia?" he asked, standing to greet her. "Yes, you must be Ethan," she replied, her practiced smile feeling stiff. "Thank you for doing this," he whispered, pulling out her chair. "My mother will be here any minute. She's been badgering me about moving on for 2 years, and I figured one dinner might buy me some peace." Before Olivia could respond, a sharp voice cut through the restaurant ambience. "Ethan, darling." A slender woman in her 60s approached, designer handbag swinging. From her arm, her critical gaze swept over Olivia, assessing everything from her modest jewelry to her shoes. "Mother, this is Olivia," Ethan said, his hand finding the small of Olivia's back. "The woman I told you about." "Patricia Reed," the woman said, extending manicured fingers. How... Unexpected to finally meet one of Ethan's interests. The dinner proceeded like a subtle interrogation. Patricia asked about Olivia's family, modest but loving, her studies environmental engineering, final year, and her future plans, hoping to work in sustainable water management. Olivia found herself answering honestly, forgetting at times that this was a performance. "And how did you two meet?" Patricia asked, sipping her wine. Ethan hesitated. What Olivia smoothly interjected at the Children's Hospital fundraiser.
"I was volunteering."
And Ethan donated a significant amount. "We talked about the importance of pediatric care." Ethan's eyes widened slightly, pressed by her quick thinking. The moment that changed everything came halfway through dinner. A young girl with curly brown hair approached their table, followed by an apologetic older woman. "Daddy," the child exclaimed. "Miss Nancy said I could say goodnight." "Zoe," Ethan said, his entire demeanor softening as he lifted the 6-year-old onto his lap. "I thought you were having movie night." "We were, but I wanted to see you," she said, then turned curious. Eyes to Olivia. "Who are you?" "I'm Olivia," she replied, smiling genuinely. "I like your unicorn beret," Zoe beamed. "Daddy got it for me. Do you like unicorns too?" "I do. Do you know they're related to narwhals? They're real animals that live in the ocean." With a single horn, Zoe's eyes widened with wonder. "Really? Daddy, can we go see narwhals?" For the first time that evening, Ethan's laugh sounded real. "Maybe someday, sweetheart. Now give Grandma and me a kiss goodnight." After Zoe left with her babysitter, something had shifted. The pretense felt thinner. When Patricia excused herself to the restroom, Ethan leaned forward. "Thank you," he whispered. "Not just for this, for being kind to Zoe." "She's wonderful," Olivia said honestly. "You don't need to thank me for that." When the evening ended, Ethan walked Olivia to her car and handed her an envelope. "You earned this," he said. "My mother actually said you were surprisingly suitable." Olivia took the envelope, suddenly embarrassed. "It was just dinner." "It was more than that," he replied. "It was the first time in years someone has made both my mother and my daughter smile in the same evening." They parted ways in the cool autumn night, both believing they would never see each other again. Both completely wrong. Second chances 2 weeks after the dinner. Olivia sat cross-legged on her dorm room floor, surrounded by textbooks and empty coffee cups. Her final semester had begun, and the environmental engineering program was determined to crush her before graduation. $250 from Ethan had helped with part of her housing payment, but she'd had to take an additional weekend job at a local cafe to cover the rest. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Ethan Reed. From the dinner. Hope this isn't inappropriate, but Zoe hasn't stopped talking about narwhals. Wondering if you'd like coffee? As thanks." Olivia stared at the message. She'd assumed their arrangement was a one-time deal, neatly concluded with an envelope of cash. Her thumb hovered over the screen before typing a response. "Coffee sounds nice. When?" They agreed to meet at a small cafe near campus that Saturday afternoon. Olivia told herself it was just coffee, just closure to an unusual experience. Nothing more. When she arrived, Ethan was already there, dressed casually in jeans and a navy sweater that made him look younger than he had in his suit. The tired lines around his eyes were less pronounced in the warm cafe lighting. "I ordered a cappuccino," he said, gesturing to the extra cup on the table. The barista said it was popular with students. "Perfect guess," Olivia replied, sliding into the seat across from him. "How's Zoe and your mother?" "Zoe is obsessed with marine life now, thanks to you. My mother is ... appeased for the moment." He paused, turning his coffee cup slowly. "I wanted to thank you properly. That night meant a lot to me." "It was just acting," Olivia said, though she knew that wasn't entirely true. Something about their interaction had felt genuine, especially after Zoe's appearance. "Was it?" Ethan's eyes met hers. "Because you seem to really connect with my daughter. And the story you came up with about meeting at the children's hospital fundraiser, it was perfect. I actually do volunteer at those events." Olivia smiled. "Lucky guess." "I figured you'd be the charitable type. What gave it away?" "The way you treated the waitstaff, the way you looked at your daughter." She took a sip of her cappuccino. "People who care about others tend to care consistently." They talked for over an hour. Ethan shared how he'd become a single father after his wife died from complications during childbirth, how he'd left his job as a financial analyst to start a nonprofit supporting families of chronically ill children, how Zoe was his world. Sometimes he worried she needed more than just him. Olivia shared her own story, her father's workplace accident that left him disabled, her scholarship that covered most expenses but not all, her dream of developing water purification systems for underserved communities. "I'm sorry," Ethan said suddenly. "I shouldn't be dumping my life story on you." "This was supposed to be a thank you coffee." "It's nice," Olivia admitted. "Having someone to talk to who isn't asking to copy my engineering notes." As they prepared to leave, Ethan hesitated. "Zoe's school is having a science fair next week. She's doing a project in New Gestatotian life. She'd probably love some input from a real engineer." "I'm not a real engineer yet," Olivia laughed. "You're closer than I am," Ethan replied, "and I'm hopeless with the display board. I keep cutting the poster board crooked." "I could help," she found herself saying. "Just as a consultant, of course." "Of course," Ethan agreed, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Strictly professional." 3 days later, Olivia found herself sitting at Ethan's kitchen table, helping Zoe glue cotton balls onto blue construction paper to represent Arctic ice where narwhals lived. The little girl chattered excitedly about walruses, seals, and her new favorite animals. "Daddy says you're really smart," Zoe said, carefully placing a paper narwhal on the diorama. "Are you going to be his girlfriend for real?" Ethan, who'd been making hot chocolate nearby, nearly dropped a mug. Zoe, remember our talk about personal questions? But you said she wasn't really your girlfriend before? So I want to know if she is now, Zoe persisted with a child's straightforward logic. Olivia felt her cheeks warm. Your dad and I are friends, Zoe. I'm helping with your project because friends help each other. My friend Emma says her mom and dad were friends first, then they got married, Zoe continued, undeterred. Science project, Ethan reminded gently, setting mugs of hot chocolate before them. Let's focus on narwhals, not grown-up relationships. Later, after Zoe had gone to bed and the project was drying on the counter, Ethan walked Olivia to her car. I'm sorry about the interrogation, he said. Kids have no filter. She's wonderful, Olivia replied. You're lucky to have her, I know. Ethan paused, hands in his pockets. Listen, I'd like to help you too. Not as a whatever this is. But Zoe really enjoys your company, and you mentioned needing more work hours. Would you consider tutoring her a few afternoons a week? She struggles with reading, and her teacher suggested extra help. Olivia considered the offer. She needed the money, and spending time with Zoe was hardly a hardship. But the boundaries of this arrangement were becoming increasingly blurry. I'd love to help Zoe, she finally said. But Ethan, I need to be clear, I'm not looking to complicate my life right now. I graduate in 4 months, and then I'll probably leave for whatever job I can find. Just tutoring, Ethan assured her. No expectations. As she drove back to campus, Olivia wondered if either of them truly believed that. What had begun as a single fake date was evolving into something neither had anticipated, something that felt dangerously close to fitting into each other's lives. And despite all her practical intentions, Olivia found herself looking forward to seeing both Ethan and Zoe again. It's not for the money, not for the convenience, but for the warmth that seemed to radiate from their home. A warmth her practical, struggling life had been missing for far too long. Building bridges. By mid-March, Olivia's routine had shifted to accommodate the Reeds. 3 afternoons a week, she'd take the bus to Ethan's modest suburban home to help Zoe with reading and homework. What had begun as formal tutoring sessions evolved into comfortable afternoons, where Zoe would read aloud while Olivia prepared flashcards, occasionally glancing up to correct pronunciation or explain a difficult word. On Tuesdays, Ethan would arrive home early from the nonprofit office, and the three would share dinner, sometimes takeout, but increasingly often meals they prepared together. Zoe had appointed herself official salad maker, proudly tossing ingredients while standing on a step stool at the counter. You're becoming a regular Julia child, Olivia told her one evening as the girl meticulously arranged cucumber slices in a perfect circle. Who's that? Zoe asked, her forehead creasing. A famous chef, Ethan explained, stirring pasta sauce at the stove. Before your time. Before Olivia's time, too. Actually. Before dinosaurs? Zoe asked seriously. Olivia laughed. It's not quite that long ago. These moments of domestic tranquility were punctuated by the reality of Olivia's academic demands. Midterms approached like an avalanche, and her senior projective filtration system designed for communities with contaminated groundwater consumed her weekends. Odd, she'd sometimes arrive at Ethan's with dark circles under her eyes, clutching her. Third, coffee of the day. You look exhausted, Ethan observed one Thursday, taking her coat as she arrived. I'm fine, Olivia insisted. Just stayed up late finalizing calculations for my project. Ethan frowned. Zoe's at a playdate today. Should have texted you? Oh. Disappointment flickered across Olivia's face before she could mask it. I'll head back to campus then. I could use the extra study time. Or, Ethan suggested, you could take a break. When was the last time you did something that wasn't studying or working? Olivia opened her mouth to protest but realized she couldn't remember. Between classes, her weekend cafe job, tutoring Zoe, and her senior project, leisure had become a foreign concept. That's what I thought, Ethan said, reading her expression. Come on. 1 hour. There's a walking trail behind the neighborhood. Fresh air might help more than another coffee. The afternoon was crisp but sunny. Early spring tentatively reaching through the lingering winter chill. They walked side by side, discussing everything except their unusual relationship, Olivia's job prospects after graduation. Ethan's expansion plans for the nonprofit, Zoe's improving reading skills. She adores you, Ethan said as they paused. On a footbridge overlooking a small stream, her teacher says her confidence has improved dramatically. She's a smart kid, Olivia replied. She just needed someone to be patient with her. It's more than that. Ethan turned to face her, sunlight catching the copper highlights in his hair. You treat her like she matters, like her thoughts are valuable. They are valuable, Olivia said simply. She's going to be a force of nature when she grows up. Like someone else I know, Ethan murmured, his gaze lingering on Olivia's face. The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken possibilities. Olivia felt her heart quicken, acutely aware of how close they stood, how easy it would be to erase. The careful distance they'd maintained. Instead, she took a step back. We should head back. I still have chapters to review. Ethan nodded, understanding and perhaps a touch of disappointment in his eyes. Of course. The following week brought unexpected complications. Olivia's cafe manager cut her weekend hours, citing seasonal slowdown. Her roommate announced she was moving out early, leaving Olivia responsible for the full rent for April. And her senior project advisor requested significant revisions to her design, requiring expensive materials for a new prototype. When she arrived at Ethan's on Thursday, visibly distressed, Zoe immediately noticed. "Are you sick?" the little girl asked, placing a small hand on Olivia's arm. "Daddy makes really good soup when I'm sick." "I'm not sick, sweetie," Olivia assured her. "Just grown-up problems. Nothing for you to worry about." But after Zoe went upstairs to retrieve her reading book, Ethan gently pressed for details. Olivia reluctantly shared her cascading financial woes.
"I can increase your tutoring pay," he offered immediately. "No," Olivia said firmly. "I won't take advantage of you that way." "Oh, we're already paying me fairly." "It's not taking advantage if I'm offering,"
Ethan countered. "Zoe's reading has improved so much. You deserve more." "This isn't about deserving," Olivia insisted. "I need to figure this out on my own. I've been doing that my whole life." Ethan studied her for a moment. "You know, accepting help doesn't make you weak. Sometimes it just makes you human." Before she could respond, Zoe bounded back into the room, clutching her favorite book. The conversation was shelved, but Ethan's words lingered in Olivia's mind throughout the evening. As she prepared to leave, Ethan handed her an envelope. "Before. You argue this isn't charity. The nonprofit needs a social media coordinator for our spring fundraiser. 10 hours a week, working remotely. The position comes with this signing bonus." "Ethan," she began. "It's legitimate work," he interrupted. "We've been looking to hire someone anyway. You'd be doing me a favor." Olivia wavered, torn between pride and practicality. "I don't know anything about social media coordination. Figured out how to design water filtration systems. I think you can handle Instagram." His smile was warm, genuine. "Please, let someone help you for once." That night, as Olivia counted the money in the envelope, exactly enough to cover her rent. Shortfall, she realized how thoroughly the Reeds had woven themselves into her life. What had begun as a business transaction had evolved into something far more complex. She was no longer just Zoe's tutor or Ethan's fake date. She had become someone who belonged at their dinner table, someone who knew which cabinet held the plates and how Zoe liked her sandwiches cut. The realization was both comforting and terrifying. In less than 2 months, she would graduate. Job applications had gone out to firms across the country. The sensible path led away from this town, away from the small house with the crooked mailbox where a little girl was learning to read, and a man was learning to open his heart again. Olivia stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, confronting the truth she'd been avoiding. She was falling for them both. And soon she would have to choose between the future she'd planned and the connection she'd never expected to find. Shattered Trust April arrived with a burst of campus activity. Graduation preparations dominated conversations, and Olivia found herself caught in a whirlwind of final exams, job interviews, and senior project presentations. Through it all, her Afternoons with Zoe remained a sanctuary of simplicity and joy. The social media work for Ethan's nonprofit proved manageable, even enjoyable, as she crafted posts highlighting their impact on families navigating childhood illness. On a rainy Tuesday evening, Olivia sat at Ethan's kitchen island, laptop open to a spreadsheet of engagement metrics while Zoe colored nearby. Ethan moved around the kitchen preparing dinner, the domestic rhythm now familiar and comforting. "I got another job offer today," Olivia mentioned, trying to keep her voice neutral. "Denver. Water resource management firm. Doe International. Projects." Ethan's hands paused briefly over the cutting board. "That sounds perfect for you. When would you start? July 1st? Olivia watched his expression carefully. "It's a great opportunity. You should take it," he said, resuming his chopping with methodical precision. "Denver's beautiful. Great outdoor activities." Zoe looked up from her coloring book. "Where's Denver? Is it far away?" "It's in Colorado, sweetheart," Ethan explained. "About 1,000 miles from here." The little girl's lower lip trembled. "But who will help me with reading if Olivia goes away?" "We'll figure something out," Ethan assured her, though his smile didn't reach his eyes. "Olivia has worked very hard in school to do important things. More important than us," Zoe asked quietly. The question hung in the air, piercing in its innocent directness. Olivia felt her chest tighten. "Different, not more important," she finally managed. "Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices." Later, after Zoe had gone to bed, Olivia and Ethan sat on the porch swing, the gentle creaking filling the silence between them. "I haven't accepted the offer yet," Olivia said finally. "Why not? It sounds perfect for you." "It does," she agreed. "On paper." Ethan turned to face her, the porch light casting shadows across his features. "What's holding you back?" "Everything." She wanted to say you, Zoe. This feeling of belonging I never expected to find. Instead, she said, "I've applied to some local firms too. Nothing as prestigious, but still in my field." "Don't limit yourself because of us," Ethan said softly. "We came into your life at a complicated time. I never meant to make things harder for you." "You haven't," Olivia insisted. "If anything, you and Zoe have been the one thing that makes sense when everything else feels overwhelming." Ethan's hand found hers on the swing between them, his fingers warm against her skin. "Whatever you decide, we'll support you. But I need you to make this choice for yourself, not for us." The moment stretched between them, fragile and significant. Olivia leaned closer, drawn by the gravity of feelings neither had fully acknowledged. Ethan's free hand gently brushed her cheek, and as the distance between them closed, the porch light suddenly seemed brighter. A car door slammed in the driveway. "Ethan, are you home?" Patricia Reed's voice cut through the evening air. They pulled apart instantly, Olivia smoothing her hair as Ethan's mother appeared at the bottom of the porch steps, her expression sharpening as she recognized Olivia. "Mother," Ethan said, standing, "we weren't expecting you." Clearly, Patricia replied, her gaze flicking between them. "I was in the area for my garden club meeting. Thought I'd drop off those tax documents you asked for." "That's thoughtful of you," Ethan said, the awkwardness palpable. "You remember Olivia, your girlfriend?" Patricia said, the word laced with skepticism. "You're still seeing each other?" "How nice." "Olivia has been tutoring Zoe," Ethan explained, "and helping with social media for the nonprofit." Patricia's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. "Quite the jack of all trades. Girlfriend, tutor, employee. What a convenient arrangement." Mrs. Reed. "It's not," Olivia began. "Oh, I understand perfectly," Patricia interrupted, climbing the steps. "Young woman in need meets established man with resources. A tale as old as time." "That's enough," Ethan said sharply. "You don't know what you're talking about." Patricia reached into her handbag, extracting an envelope. "Actually, I do. Amanda Grayson's daughter is in Zoe's class. She sent me this yesterday, concerned about who was spending time with my granddaughter." She handed the envelope to Ethan. Olivia watched as he removed a printed page, his expression darkening as he read. "What is this?" he asked, voice low. "A screenshot," Patricia said coldly. "From the university forum? Posted by your girlfriend the day before you introduced her to me. Seeking cash for pretending to be your date? Olivia felt the blood drain from her face. Ethan, I can explain. Is it true? He asked, his eyes meeting hers. Was that how this started? You answered an anonymous post for money? The hurt in his voice cut deeper than anger would have. Yes, but it's not that simple now. Do you know how this looks? He interrupted, gesturing to the house behind them. You've been around my daughter, in our home. All while I thought he broke off, running a hand through his hair. God, I'm an idiot. You're not, Olivia insisted, tears threatening. What happened that first night was an arrangement, yes. But everything since then has been real. I care about Zoe and you. But you needed money, Patricia interjected. How convenient that my son had plenty to offer tutoring social media work. Did you create those opportunities, or just recognize them? That's not fair, Olivia protested, her voice breaking. I never asked for special treatment, didn't you? Patricia pressed. A struggling student suddenly integrated into a comfortable home, with a stable father figure and a child who adores her. Quite the upgrade from student housing and ramen noodles. Mother, stop, Ethan said, but his voice lacked conviction. Olivia stood, gathering her belongings with trembling hands. I should go. Olivia, wait, Ethan began, but she shook her head. I never meant to deceive you, she said quietly. What began as something transactional became real to me. But I understand how this looks. I understand why you're hurt. Doesn't begin to cover it, Ethan replied. I trusted you with my daughter, with our lives. And I never betrayed that trust, Olivia insisted, tears now flowing freely. Not once. Except by lying about how we met, he countered. About why you were there that night. You know who I am now, she whispered. The real me, not the person who answered that post. For a moment, something flickered in Ethan's eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps even the desire to believe her. But then he glanced at the paper in his hand, at his mother's triumphant expression, and his face hardened. I think it's best if you don't. Come around for a while, he said finally. I need to explain to Zoe why her tutor won't be visiting anymore. The words struck like physical blows. Olivia nodded mutely, unable to form a response through her grief. She descended the porch steps, passing Patricia without meeting her gaze. Take the Denver job, dear, Patricia called after her. A fresh start would be best for everyone. As Olivia drove back to campus, rain streaming down her windshield, she realized the cruelest irony. What had begun as a fake relationship had become the most genuine connection she'd ever known. And now, because of how it started, she had lost everything that mattered. The little girl who had claimed a piece of her heart, the man who had shown her what it meant to be truly seen. In her dorm room, she sat at her desk and opened her laptop. The acceptance letter for the Denver position waited in her inbox, cursor hovering over the I accept button. With tears blurring her vision, she clicked, sealing her fate and closing the door on the life she'd glimpsed, but never truly claimed. Finding home May brought graduation, a blur of ceremonies and goodbyes that Olivia navigated on autopilot. Her senior project won departmental recognition, and professors congratulated her on the prestigious Denver position. She smiled and thanked them, the achievement hollow without anyone to truly share it with. She hadn't seen Ethan or Zoe in 3 weeks. Her texts had gone unanswered, the tutoring sessions replaced by silence. She'd completed the nonprofit social media campaign remotely, transferring administration to another volunteer without ever setting foot in the office again. On the last day of finals, Olivia found herself driving past Ethan's neighborhood, a detour she couldn't justify but couldn't resist. She slowed near the house with the crooked mailbox, heart clenching when she spotted Zoe's bicycle on the front lawn. She didn't stop. You're being ridiculous, her roommate Jasmine said that evening as Olivia packed her meager belongings. Call him, explain. What's the worst that could happen? He already knows everything, Olivia replied, carefully wrapping the frame containing her engineering degree, and decided it wasn't enough. Men can be idiots, Jasmine declared, especially when their mothers are involved. Olivia managed a weak smile. It doesn't matter now. I'll leave for Denver in 2 weeks. The following morning, a knock at her door startled Olivia from sorting textbooks. She opened it to find a small girl with curly brown hair and fierce determination in her eyes. Zoe Olivia gasped. "What are you doing here?" "How did you miss Nancy brought me?" Zoe explained, pointing to an older woman hovering anxiously in the hallway. "She's my babysitter. I told her it was an emergency." "Zoe Reed," the woman scolded gently. "You said your father knew we were coming." "I might have fibbed," Zoe admitted, chin raised defiantly. "But it's important." Olivia knelt to the child's level. "Honey, does your dad know where you are?" "No," Zoe confessed. "But he's been sad ever since you left. He thinks I don't notice, but I do. He plays with his phone at night, looking at pictures of you from the fundraiser." Olivia's heart stuttered. I made this for you," the girl interrupted, thrusting a folded paper into Olivia's hands. "Please don't go to Denver." "Ow." Olivia unfolded the construction paper. Crayon drawings depicted 3 stick figures holding hands, a tall man, a medium woman with red scribbles for hair, and a small girl. Above them, in careful lettering, "My family." "Oh, Zoe," Olivia whispered, tears welling. "I know you were pretending." At first, Zoe said matter-of-factly, "Daddy explained that you two weren't really dating when you came to dinner with Grandma. But he said sometimes pretend things can become real things, like when you play school and then you actually learn something." The innocent wisdom stunned Olivia into silence. "I should call your father," she finally managed. Already done came a familiar voice from the hallway. Ethan stood there, slightly out of breath, as if he'd run up the stairs. "Ms. Nancy texted me the moment they left the house." "I'm so sorry about this, Daddy," Zoe exclaimed. "Did you see? I found Olivia." "I see that, sweetheart," he replied, his eyes never leaving Olivia's face. "That was very brave, but also very dangerous. We've talked about going places without permission. But you were too scared to come yourself," Zoe pointed out with devastating accuracy. A flush crept up Ethan's neck. "Miss Nancy, could you take Zoe for an ice cream in the campus center? I need to speak with Olivia privately." After they departed, an awkward silence filled the small dorm room. "I'm sorry about this ambush," Ethan finally said. "It's fine," Olivia replied, suddenly conscious of the half-packed boxes surrounding them. "As you can see, I'm preparing to leave anyway." Ethan nodded, taking in the disassembled life around them. Denver, she confirmed. Another pause, heavier than the first. "I was wrong," Ethan blurted. "About everything. About you." Olivia crossed her arms, protecting herself from hope. "Your mother made some valid points. Our relationship did start under false pretenses. My mother," Ethan said carefully, "has spent years trying to control my life under the guise of protecting me. She saw in you something I missed entirely, someone who could make me happy again. That terrified her." "She thought I was using you for money," Olivia reminded him. "Oh, she used that as an excuse," he countered. "What scared her was that you were getting close to me. To Zoe, creating something she couldn't manage or direct." He took a step closer. "After you left, I did something I should have done immediately. I looked at our entire history, from that first night to now, and asked myself, when were you most authentic? When did you have opportunities to take advantage and didn't? When did you put our needs before your own? And," Olivia whispered. "And the evidence was overwhelming," he said softly. "The woman who answered that post for money would have maximized her profit. It's not spent hours making flashcards for Zoe. She wouldn't have stayed up late designing social media campaigns after finishing her own coursework. She wouldn't have applied for local jobs that paid less than positions across the country." Olivia swallowed hard. "How did you know about that? Your professor? Dr. Williams? He's on our nonprofit board," Ethan explained. "He mentioned you'd turned down 2 offers to pursue local opportunities, despite his recommendation." "It doesn't matter now," Olivia said, gesturing to the boxes. "I accepted Denver." "I know," Ethan acknowledged. "And if that's truly what you want, I'll respect it. Oh, but before you go, I need to tell you something." He reached for her hands, and after a moment's hesitation, she allowed him to take them. "You didn't change our lives because of some arrangement," he said, echoing her heartbeat with his thumbs against her wrists. "You changed them by being exactly who you are, brilliant, compassionate, and brave enough to build something real from an unusual beginning. Tears threatened again. "Ethan, I love you," he continued, voice steady despite the vulnerability in his eyes. "Not the person who showed up for a fake date, but the woman who stayed to help my daughter read, challenged me to open my heart. Again, who saw our broken little family and somehow found a place where she fit perfectly." "What about your mother?" Olivia asked, voice barely audible. "She adjusts," he said simply, "or she won't. But I'm not letting her cost me a second chance at happiness. I've spent 2 years existing instead of living." Then you walked into that restaurant, and suddenly I remembered what it felt like to look forward to tomorrow. Olivia felt the careful walls around her heart crumbling. "I don't know if I can stay in limbo, waiting for local jobs that might never materialize." "You don't have to," Ethan replied. "The nonprofit is expanding. We received a major grant last week for international water projects communities where children are getting sick from contaminated sources. We need an environmental engineer who specializes in water filtration systems." Olivia's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" "Completely," he assured her. "The board approved the position yesterday. It's yours if you want it. No strings attached it. You take the job but decide we aren't right for each other. Nothing changes professionally. But I'm hoping, ... hoping." "What?" she prompted when he trailed off. "I'm hoping you'll give us all 3 of us a chance to be a real family," he finished. "Not pretend, not arranged, just real." The door burst open before Olivia could respond. Zoe bounded in, ice cream smeared across her cheek. "Did you ask her? Is she staying? Can we be a family now?" The questions tumbled out in rapid succession. Ethan laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "I was in the middle of asking when you interrupted, sweetheart." Zoe turned to Olivia, eyes wide and hopeful. "Well, are you staying?" Olivia looked between them, the man who had redefined her understanding of love and the little girl who'd claimed her heart with narwhal facts and crayon drawings. The choice that had seemed so impossible now felt inevitable. "I need to make a phone call to Denver," she said, smiling through tears. "And then I need to unpack these boxes." Zoe squealed in delight, launching herself into Olivia's arms. Over the child's head, Olivia's eyes met Ethan's, seeing in them the same certainty she felt that sometimes the most genuine connections begin in the most unexpected ways. 1 year later, as Olivia stood beside Ethan in a garden filled with wildflowers, exchanging vows while Zoe proudly held their rings, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. What had begun as a desperate measure, a college girl showing up to a fake date for money had transformed into the most authentic love she'd ever known. When it came time for her vows, Olivia looked at the family she'd found and simply said, "I came because I needed something temporary. I stayed because I found something permanent. What began as pretend has become my most beautiful reality." As Ethan pulled her close for their first kiss as husband and wife, Zoe tossed flower petals and declared to everyone listening, "See? I told you she was staying forever." Sometimes Olivia realized, the most genuine love stories begin with the simplest of arrangements and the courage to let them become real. The desperate measure Olivia Parker stared at her laptop screen. The university payment portal showing an outstanding balance that made her stomach knot. $3,000 due in 2 weeks, or she couldn't register for her final semester. Her scholarship covered tuition, but not the mandatory housing fees that had increased mid-year. Her part-time job at the campus library barely covered groceries, and her father's disability checks were stretched thin, caring for her younger sister back home. She closed the tab and opened the university's student forum, scrolling mindlessly. To distract herself from the impending financial disaster, a post in the Jobs Gigs section caught her eye. $250 for 1 evening. Attend dinner as my date. Professional, respectful environment. No strings attached. Message for details. Olivia bit her lip. It wasn't the first time she'd seen such posts, usually. From wealthy business students looking for arm candy at corporate events, she'd always scrolled past them, but tonight, with desperation clouding her judgment, she clicked the message button. The response came within minutes. A man named Ethan needed someone to pose as his girlfriend for dinner with his mother. No romantic expectations, just convincing conversation and polite company. The instructions were specific. Where something elegant but modest, arrive at Giovanni's. at 7 p.m. Thursday and pretend they'd been dating for 3 months. This is insane, she muttered, but typed her acceptance anyway. Thursday evening found Olivia standing outside the upscale Italian restaurant, wearing her only cocktail dress, a navy blue number she'd bought secondhand for presentations. Her auburn hair was swept into a simple updo, and she wore the pearl earrings her grandmother had given her for graduation. Taking a deep breath, she walked in and spotted him immediately. Ethan Reed sat at a corner table, his broad shoulders filling out a charcoal gray suit. He was older than she expected, maybe early 30s, with copper-brown hair and tired eyes that brightened when he saw her. "Olivia?" he asked, standing to greet her. "Yes, you must be Ethan," she replied, her practiced smile feeling stiff. "Thank you for doing this," he whispered, pulling out her chair. "My mother will be here any minute. She's been badgering me about moving on for 2 years, and I figured one dinner might buy me some peace." Before Olivia could respond, a sharp voice cut through the restaurant ambience. "Ethan, darling." A slender woman in her 60s approached, designer handbag swinging. From her arm, a critical gaze swept over Olivia, assessing everything from her modest jewelry to her shoes. "Mother, this is Olivia," Ethan said, his hand finding the small of Olivia's back. "The woman I told you about." "Patricia Reed," the woman said, extending manicured fingers. How... Unexpected to finally meet one of Ethan's interests. The dinner proceeded like a subtle interrogation. Patricia asked about Olivia's family, modest but loving, her studies environmental engineering, final year, and her future plans, hoping to work in sustainable water management. Olivia found herself answering honestly, forgetting at times that this was a performance. "And how did you two meet?" Patricia asked, sipping her wine. Ethan hesitated. What Olivia smoothly interjected at the Children's Hospital fundraiser.
"I was volunteering."
And Ethan donated a significant amount. "We talked about the importance of pediatric care." Ethan's eyes widened slightly, pressed by her quick thinking. The moment that changed everything came halfway through dinner. A young girl with curly brown hair approached their table, followed by an apologetic older woman. "Daddy," the child exclaimed, "Miss Nancy said I could say goodnight." "Zoe," Ethan said, his entire demeanor softening as he lifted the 6-year-old onto his lap. "I thought you were having movie night." "We were, but I wanted to see you," she said, then turned curious. Eyes to Olivia. "Who are you?" "I'm Olivia," she replied, smiling genuinely. "I like your unicorn beret," Zoe beamed. "Daddy got it for me. Do you like unicorns too?" "I do. Do you know they're related to narwhals? They're real animals that live in the ocean." With a single horn, Zoe's eyes widened with wonder. "Really? Daddy, can we go see narwhals?" For the first time that evening, Ethan's laugh sounded real. "Maybe someday, sweetheart. Now give Grandma and me a kiss goodnight." After Zoe left with her babysitter, something had shifted. The pretense felt thinner. When Patricia excused herself to the restroom, Ethan leaned forward. "Thank you," he whispered. "Not just for this, for being kind to Zoe." "She's wonderful," Olivia said honestly. "You don't need to thank me for that." When the evening ended, Ethan walked Olivia to her car and handed her an envelope. "You earned this," he said. "My mother actually said you were surprisingly suitable." Olivia took the envelope, suddenly embarrassed. "It was just dinner." "It was more than that," he replied. "It was the first time in years someone has made both my mother and my daughter smile in the same evening." They parted ways in the cool autumn night, both believing they would never see each other again. Both completely wrong.